Hey guys, what's going on? Welcome back to the channel, Emergency 21 Hunting and Fishing press conference. Today we're back to current events. Today we're covering an article that is you can find in several different spots. This one happens to come to us from the Providencetown Independent. I have no idea. This is just Google came up with this link when I was Google searching for this particular topic. But essentially, what I saw this morning was the state of Massachusetts bans all large shark fishing on Outer Cape. So there's a lot to dive into on this story. And so we're just gonna start reading. Okay, so this is from Wellfleet. A group of fishermen using baited hooks delivered by drones to fish for sharks at LeCount Hollow Beach last summer got into an altercation with surfers that led to Wellfleet police and Cape Cod National Seashore officers being called, but the fishermen were released without being charged. Cool little picture of a great white. The incident inspired the state's Marine Fisheries Advisory Commission to implement new regulations on March 27th that allow authorities to charge people with shark fishing in areas where great whites are dominant species. So in the military, we had this thing called the strategic corporal. In the Marines, we talked about it a lot. I don't know if the other branches of service do, but the thought process is that you, as a lowly corporal, can have strategic impacts on the battlefield, good, bad, or indifferent. So here's just some fishermen and surfers that they're having strategic impacts on this topic. I thought that was interesting. It stems from one incident. Great white sharks are federally protected, so fishing for them was already illegal. Fishing for other shark species is legal, however, so anyone targeting white sharks can simply state to the environmental police that they are targeting other species. I like environmental police. I think they mean game wardens. The environmental police sounds like something I would come up with. Said Greg Scomill, Division of Marine Fisheries, Large Pelagics and Diadromas Fisheries Program Manager. Someone's going to have to look up that big word, too big for me. Diadromas. I think that has something to do with sharks. But in the waters around Outer Cape, few other sharks exist. With that in mind, the DMF aimed for an outright ban on shark fishing from the shore on the Outer Cape in the Cape Cod Bay by banning the use of metal or wire leader longer than 18 inches or a hook with a gape exceeding 5/8 of an inch. Okay, so this is getting technical, and so just to quickly summarize, you can't target great white sharks or white sharks. You can't target them. You can't target them here in California either. Just like you can't go out and shoot anything else with a gun on the endangered species list. You can't target them. And so what you do is you just say, "Hey, I'm fishing for something else," which you probably are, right? Because you wouldn't do anything illegal. But they're saying, essentially they're just trying to close this loophole by scientifically going in and saying you can't use a metal or wire leader. You use a metal or wire leader for shark fishing because they're, newsflash, sharks' teeth are sharp and they just cut through regular fishing line more than 18 inches, which is funny. So you can still use a metal or wire leader, but it has to be 18 inches or less, or a hook with a gape exceeding 5/8 of an inch. So that's relatively small hook, 5/8 of an inch. So according to my math, that's a little bit bigger than half an inch. So a big shark like you see in that photo isn't your chances of hooking him are pretty low. And then he would probably just bend out the hook anyway because he's so big. This regulation, the DMF Fisheries Policy Analyst Jared Silva explained at the March 27 meeting, is, quote, targeted at the more robust gear that is used to target white sharks. So basically everything I just said. The regulations also ban shore-based chumming during the daytime and ban the use of drones and other remote controlled devices to drop bait. The southern beaches of the Cape that face Nantucket Sound were not included in the regulations since that area has a historic shark fishery that doesn't target great whites. The Marine Fisheries Advisory Commission passed the regulations by a vote of 5-1. Massachusetts, the California of the East Coast. At the meeting, Silver also said that shore-based white shark fishing has been rising in popularity, which he attributed to social media. Massachusetts is the primary location for this activity, he said. This is ridiculous. Typically, shark fishermen fish at night on remote beaches, Scommel added. The group of fishermen who used their drones to fish off LeCount Hollow last September 28th did so in the hours just after dawn, which led to the conflict with surfers who said the fishing lines and the use of bait to attract sharks were endangering their lives. Newsflash to the surfers out there are sharks in the water already. You're not going to attract a shark from a long distance on a single fishing session, right? They're not going to be coming from miles. You're fishing for something that's already there. According to Megan Wilton, senior scientist with the Atlantic White Shark Conservancy, the LeCount Hollow incident put shark fishing on the state's radar. See? A simple incident, you just losing your cool, can put yourself on the state's radar. People were sending information our way at the Conservancy asking if we had heard of this, she said. They were upset about it. What were they upset about? Were they upset about people fighting on the beach? Or were they upset about realizing that people fish for sharks off the beach? And they only know that now because of the fight between the surfers and the fishermen got media attention, I guess. At a prior advisory commission meeting on December 17th, DMF Director Daniel McKernan presented the first draft of the regulations and said they were motivated in part by the LeCount Hollow incident and the Independent's reporting of it. So again, you're making the assumption that the surfers have more rights to the beach in the outdoors than the fishermen. I think we have equal rights to it. I don't, just because I fish and I don't surf, that doesn't mean I think that I own the beach, and nor do I think that the surfers should feel that way. But the state clearly is just kind of using this as an excuse, as another attack on fishermen. On October 10th, 2024 article about the incident was really compelling, McKernan said. It talks about the difficulty of having this directed shark fishery taking place amongst surfers. Yes, so white sharks attack surfers because of fishermen. That's exactly why they do it. I'm so glad we solved that problem. Scommel said the regulations would make it much easier to actually police white shark fishing. Once we've defined what shark fishing is, an environmental police officer can now approach someone and look at their gear and determine, okay, you're shark fishing, Scommel said. Some people might keep fishing anyway, he said. These adventure anglers who target big sharks for social media clicks, it might be worth it in their minds to try to continue this activity, he said. So people have been fishing before social media there, Mr. Scommel. This is just an absolute overreach in, basically taking this incident out of context between these surfers and fishermen. Winton, who was not involved in drafting the regulations, said they would both protect white sharks and improve public safety. The Outer Cape is such a popular area with both people and white sharks in the summer and fall, he said, and baiting sharks into shallows could draw them toward people. Okay, so look at this shark. The sharks obviously come in really close to shore, right? I don't think, we are shark fishermen are bringing the great whites into shore. One fisherman's response. There were 3 anglers involved in the LeCount Hollow incident. Alexander Whittet of Harwich, Sean Willis, Brennis Parks. He's a founder of JP Fishing LLC. Shout out JP Fishing LLC, a shark fishing outfit based in Maryland. Parks declined to comment on the new regulations, but Whitney responded to inquiries sent through a messaging app. Whitehead said the new regulations were taking away fishermen's rights and that other shark species do occasionally appear in the waters around Cape Cod. He pointed to news stories of thresher and portbeagle sharks washing ashore on the outer Cape. I got a thresher shark trip planned already this summer. Gonna be tons of fun. Wash ashore on the outer Cape. And sand tiger sharks gathering in Duxbury Bay. Whittet claimed that when he fished from outer Cape beaches, he was targeting those species. Awesome. Good job, dude. Scommel told The Independent last fall that it is incredibly rare to find any sharks other than great whites near shore. In 37 years of working on sharks in the state, I can say that I have only encountered white sharks in the shallows among the outer Cape, he said last October. Scommel so is it the incident or is it your experience, Mr. Scommel? You're giving us different signals here. The regulations also do not ban fishing for smaller sharks if fishermen use smaller gear, Whittet said. Whittet said he uses heavier gear outlined in the regulation to reduce the fight time on smaller sharks, which he said gives them a better chance of survival. Whittet has posted numerous videos on Instagram of himself and people with him reeling white sharks inshore. He told The Independent that all white shark catchers have been accidental. He also said that he and some other fishermen will probably avoid the outer Cape because of the new regulations. It's not worth the risk knowing you could get fined. So, kind of too bad, this one incident happened and then all of a sudden, Massachusetts, the California of the East Coast, has to jump in and immediately go after the fishermen. This is why it's so important for you to show up and let your voices be heard on these meetings, because they will continue to ban, put up barriers, generally just make it difficult to fish. And then you see like these all these technical rules, like if the gape exceeding 5/8 of an inch, so now you got to take your ruler to the tackle store, because that's not how they sell hooks. They sell hooks, the sizing of the way that hooks works, like a 2.0 or like a size 2. Those are different sizes. There's no like industry standard. But I can tell you for sure that on the package, it does not say the gape of the hook. So again, they're just making it difficult. And as you see, this fisherman said, what, I'm not even going to bother. It's not worth it. Even if he was fishing with a 17.5-inch wire leader and a hook that's, a 1/2 inch gape, he just doesn't even want to put himself in that situation. And I can understand that. Not a knock on him at all. Sometimes you're like, I don't even feel like getting off the couch. I guess I'm not going to go. So then when you start throwing in all these legalities, sometimes it's enough that you're like, you know what? I'm just not going to do it. So let's look at another article. All right, so here's another article from Outdoors. Massachusetts just banned most shark fishing from land, blaming anglers who want that viral video with a great white. It's so ridiculous. The crackdown in Massachusetts is meant to address conflicts between surf anglers and beachgoers. The new rules come as other coastal states eye similar restrictions around land-based shark. Okay, so this is also why it's really important, folks, to pay attention on what's going on around you. what happens in Massachusetts, because it's going to happen in New Hampshire, then it's going to spread to Maine. And, these states, they just kind of look over the fence and say, hey, what's going on over there? We're thinking about a similar law. You've had it on the books for 2-3 years now. How's that going? Oh, good. Okay. We're going to have to do the same thing. And that's how this cancer grows. It's people not paying attention. That is a badass looking shark. I used to love Shark Week when I was a kid on Discovery Channel. All right, let's get into it. Fisheries officials in Massachusetts don't want anglers targeting great white sharks, especially not from public beaches. And they just approved new regulations to crack down on the practice ahead of the upcoming season. Under the new rules, which you can click on, which were recommended by the state's Division of Marine Fisheries and approved by the Massachusetts Marine Fisheries Advisory on Thursday. So it would have been a Thursday in early April. I don't know. This article came out 2 days ago. So this is very, very fresh. Recommended by the State's Division of Marine Fisheries and approved by the Massachusetts Marine Fisheries Advisory on Thursday. Land-based shark fishing is now banned on Cape Cod and most of the surrounding coastline. So let's talk about this for a second. Who goes on vacations in Cape Cod during the summer? I want you to picture that person. Who goes on vacations at Cape Cod during the summer? I'm going to give you a second to picture what that person looks like. Okay, I'm glad you know that it's some rich person that has power. Chumming from shore during daylight hours is also banned statewide, as is fishing with drones and other mechanical devices. Massachusetts' stricter rules build on existing state regulations, and officials say they will allow for better enforcement of those regs, according to the Boston Herald. Keeping great white sharks has been illegal in the state since 2005. Keeping great white sharks has been... Okay, so what they're saying is, instead of saying you can't target them, you can't keep them. Sorry, I'm a little slow. I had to read that. As if like you would keep him like as a pet. That's how I was thinking when I first read that. Anyways, let's move on. Keeping great white sharks has been illegal in the Bay State since 2005, and emergency regulations enacted in 2015 further prohibited anglers from even targeting the species. But these rules have been difficult to enforce, since anglers who hook great whites could say that they were targeting another shark or fish species, and sometimes they were. Next read. How to cook a great white shark and get in serious trouble for it. That would be a funny article. By banning land-based shark fishing entirely along the sections of coastline where great white sharks are most abundant, officials have effectively closed that regulatory loophole. Anglers can still surf fish for other species as long as they're not using metal or wire leaders. So this is why it's also important to go straight to the laws and read them yourself, because the other article said, something about 18 inches, and now this one says you can't use any metal or wire leaders. The active ban stretches from the northernmost point of Plymouth Beach down to Cape Cod and around the Outer Cape, including all of Chatham Harbor and Monomoy Island. The coastal areas around South Cape and the islands, which are known to hold fewer great whites but are home to other legally catchable shark species, are excluded from the ban. All these areas mean something to you if you're from that area, but think of it as like that seaward facing part of like the arm of Cape Cod all the way through to like the elbow up to like where, using my analogy of Cape Cod being an arm, all the way up to the shoulder. Whereas like the tricep part of Cape Cod is where they're saying you can legally catch sharks. The approved regulations mirror some of the stricter rules that have been enacted in other coastal states where shark fishing from shore is becoming a victim of its own popularity. The huge increase in surf anglers catching and posing with sharks for the gram has brought a lot of unwanted attention to what was once a secretive pastime. This is getting ridiculous. Very secret, top secret, guys. We can't tell anyone we're fishing for sharks from the beach, even though it's legal at the time. Now the gram is struck again. Land-based shark fishing has become one of the most overblown, ego-driven gong shows in fishing. OL fishing editor Joe Cremelli wrote in 2022. After a popular beach town in New Jersey banned surf fishing for sharks during the summertime, all this commotion is destined to destroy. It's not just public sentiment, but public safety that officials are concerned about, however. An incident that occurred on Cape Cod last fall is one example, and according to the Boston Herald, it is part of what precipitated the new rules. So this is what we're talking about. The private sound independence, that's what we were just reading. So this goes into a little bit more detail. There was a confrontation between surfers and a group of land-based anglers who were allegedly targeting a great white shark on LeCount Hollow Beach. The anglers had been chumming off the beach that morning, and they used a drone to send their hook, line, and bait, a dead bluefish, out over and past the surfers. The surfers called the police, claiming they saw a giant shark surface near them and that they've gotten tangled in the anglers' lines. So, I mean, if their surfers are already there, just move to a different spot, I wouldn't have done that. I would have just found a different spot. And if you know what you're looking for, there's spots everywhere. No charges were filed since the anglers had their license and said that they were fishing for bass and stingrays. But this conflict shows how land-based shark fishing done wrong can be a threat or a perceived threat to public safety. There is a large contingent of anglers on social media that are looking for that viral video of them shark fishing, particularly for white sharks, Massachusetts DMF policy. And this is so ridiculous. So basically, it's not using any science. It's just completely emotionally driven. I can't believe these people can make these type of decisions. You got to pay attention to what they're trying to do, folks. Silva added that this is especially problematic during the summer months when the height of the tourist season coincides with peak great white shark activity around Cape Cod. Great whites have been returning in record numbers there since around 2015, and they like to hunt along the shallow beaches where both seals and humans are found. So here's the thing about white sharks. They don't typically start eating mammals until they're 10 feet or bigger. And the juvenile sharks, they typically will stay closer to shore and feed on fish. And so I would like to know there, Massachusetts, how many documented great white sharks attacks have there been while there's people fishing on the shore for sharks? Probably zero, because they're so rare anyway. They can't coexist, Silver said, referring to beachgoers and land-based shark anglers. It's a huge public safety issue. That's ridiculous. God, these people kill me. How do these people get to where they are? They clearly just get appointed, and then they have to make decisions, and they're appointed because of a particular party that they belong to, and that particular party has certain persuasions of how they see the world, and so then they have to, in order to continue to serve on said board, they have to continue to feed that beast. So let's go to the rules. We're going straight to the rules. All right, the Commonwealth of Massachusetts Division of Marine Fisheries. Blah, 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 people. Marine Fisheries Advisory Commission approves DMF recommendations for final regulations at March business meeting. So yeah, this just happened. The Marine Fisheries Advisory Council, MFAC, has met virtually on the 27th of March and reviewed and approved a suite of final regulatory recommendations from the Division of Marine Fisheries. Following the MFAC approval, DMF will commence with the final rulemaking process, which anticipates updated rules will go into effect later this spring. Formal announcements will be made to communicate each rule change. All right, so the final DMF recommendation approved by blah, faults, albacore and bonito management, striped bass, total length measurement, shore-based. So this is the articles that we're talking about is about agenda item number 3, shore-based shark fishing. So I do want to okay, so I thought this was going to get more into the technicalities of this particular law with, you know, the gape of the hook, the length of the wire leader. Okay, so a recording of the business meeting has been posted to their YouTube channel. So you need to follow these YouTube channels. And what you're probably, you know, these meetings happen during business hours, right? You're working, blah, blah, blah. But you can go back and look at these, their videos on YouTube, listen to it like a podcast. Some of them are really long. These meetings can go for a long time. But you will quickly pick up on how these meetings run and work and what you can do as a concerned angler or outdoorsman or hunter to make your voice heard, because silence is consent on any of these topics. If you don't speak out and push it back against it, silence is consent. They're gonna keep doing what they're doing. So I'm gonna end the video there. I wanted to get more into the technicalities of the law, but you know, maybe that's another podcast. So remember, kill something, drag it back to your cave and eat it. See ya.
Good tiger strength.